Welcome back, everyone. Another Dinger Tuesday episode of Coffee with Kamish. Liam is coming back with us today, of course, but we also have another special guest that is joining the show from SAO. It's been a good day so far. We just had Kerry Carpenter hit a walk-off home run in Detroit. Had the Tigers money line, the Guardians under on their team total, and then we cashed Matt Boyd over 1.5 walks. But this show is about dingers, and without further ado, I'll bring in our couple of guests today. Appreciate you guys joining, making time for this.
Pleasure's all mine.
What's up, fellas?
What's up, Luch? First time on the channel, and my God, man, like could not have come at a better time.
Crazy.
Right now, looking at 3-0 yesterday and 1-0 today on home run props, which is absolutely an insane run. So, Luch, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, brother.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, just stupid hot right now. This doesn't happen. We all bet plus odds things, home runs, whatever the alt totals are in certain things, especially in the UFC MMA world. There's a million props you can bet. You don't hit 4 in a row typically. So I'm riding the wave, enjoying the fun while I can. Typically, over the long haul, I'll take my 10 to 15% long term and I'll be on my way. But it's been one hell of an April weekend. We're talking home runs. We got cold weather in the spring. There's not even good weather conditions, so it's even harder to call home runs and things like that this early. So, man, Kerry Carpenter, I wanted him yesterday, and we had the rain out yesterday in the Cleveland-Detroit game. Same matchup. And I guess if I'm just going to, press anything to people that are newer to handicapping, betting, or sportsbook, you need to shop odds. He was plus 750 on FanDuel and only plus 380 on Caesars, which is just a massive difference. So there are just huge discrepancies in picking out home runs if that's what you're into betting, and God help you if that's the only thing you bet on. To definitely have multiple sportsbook accounts. I definitely have some friends and even some family that are so stubborn that they are just so loyal to one sportsbook, which is great and everything. But I'm sure, it's definitely not the most profitable way to go in the long term. So big win.
Yeah, Liam actually holds the world record for most sportsbook accounts on one cell phone. So,
hey, I try my best, but I totally agree, though. It's a numbers game at the end of the day, right? We're all trying to get a bigger return on our investment over time. And the only way to do that is to get the best of the number, right? If I'm not beating the odds that everybody else is getting, I'm going to get the return that everybody else is getting. Average sports bettor doesn't win, right? So we got to think to ourselves, how am I going to beat that? And I think the number one way to do that is to price compare. If somebody's offering you the same bet at plus 750 that they'd offer you at plus 450 at a house that knows what they're doing, okay, well, I'll take the ride with you. That's the kind of thing that, we know going in plus 750, we're not going to cash every one of those. But if we bet those long term and they're being offered plus 450 at sharp houses, we're going to win. That's the goal.
absolutely.
So with that being said, why don't we get right into it, fellas? We got a game that I know that you guys want to talk about off the rip. We've got Texas Rangers taking on Kansas City Royals at KC. Game opens up here 8.5. It's up to 9 as a total. So when we're betting home runs, we want to see that total keep going up. What do you fellas think about this game, and who are you liking to hit a home run? We'll start with the commish.
I'm actually on the same guy that Luch is on. I believe here as well with Vinny, the Italian stallion over there with KC. I think we can pull up the weather report here, and again, like Luch mentioned, the weather not great in April, especially for home runs. And today I think is one of those days where there's just not a lot of great options for home runs. I'm sure Luch can find the 5 guys that will hit a home run today somehow. But if you look at the Texas KC game, you can see winds blowing out pretty strongly to left field. Temperatures around first pitch, about 80 degrees. We have a couple of pitchers who are not super prone to the home run ball, but definitely a little bit of a tendency to give up fly balls. And when you give up a routine fly ball and the wind's blowing out more than 10 miles an hour, obviously increases the chances of it getting over that left field wall significantly. We've talked on this show in the past about how wind, in particular, blowing out to left field is correlated with higher scoring games. So when you're thinking about a promo like the FanDuel one, where you get $5 back in bonus bets for each home run that's hit in the game, even if your bet doesn't win, this makes a ton of sense to me. I think we'll see at least a couple here, but yeah, I'm with Vinny and Luch. I'd be curious your reasoning too, because I know that's a guy that you like today.
Same matchup as I kind of pegged last week against Eovaldi. Ironically, these two teams played a couple of days ago. And before this ridiculous heater I was on. He was one of my most recent home run calls. Just generous odds for a guy who's really talented. Anytime you can get 5-1 or better, and there aren't really many good hitting conditions on the slate today. This is arguably the best weather for bats. Lefties are the platoon that gets to Eovaldi. Decent pitcher. And for DFS purposes, I'm sure there's some overlap here, and I'll be playing a little bit myself. Like, I want both sides of this game because there are some K rates in this KC lineup, and if Eovaldi can, avoid Vinny P and some of these lefties, he has a little bit of strikeout upside. But at the same flip of the bill, Brad Keller is kind of just a guy as well who just is a better real life pitcher than for anything betting or fantasy purposes. So I kind of like both sides of this. Like, I don't hate Eovaldi, but I do think these lefties like Vinny P could get him in a little bit of trouble. Since the start of 2022, Eovaldi's given up a 226 ISO and a higher fly ball rate and hard hit rate to lefties. And he's pretty reliant on throwing the curve and the fastball to lefties. It makes up a big bulk of his pitch mix, and that is right in Vinny P's wheelhouse. So I like Vinny P. If the odds were, 3 or 4-1, maybe I'd be out. But since we're still getting like 5-1 or better, in a good matchup, that's when you got to shop your sports books and take advantage of it. So I'm with you there.
Absolutely love it. Really sound analysis, guys. The last thing I'll leave you with on this game is that there was some reported sharp action on the under, and the sports books did not really respect it. They moved the number in the opposite direction. So for me, that's always a sign of weakness as well. And that's interesting to note. So we can move along to the next game, guys. We've got Toronto taking on Houston. This one's going to be at 8:10 start time on the East Coast. And Houston Astros, obviously going to be a popular side for people to look at. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a game that a lot of people are going to want to have a bet on, whether the weather conditions support it or not. But Kamish, why don't you get us started with the weather report for this game?
Well, we're inside, so like we always mention on the show, if you come to Switch Analytics and you see, or wherever you get your weather, and you see that there's winds blowing out significantly and you're in a dome, obviously makes absolutely no difference. I think for me, the biggest thing to be looking at in this game is you have a guy on the mound tonight for the Toronto Blue Jays, Chris Bassett, who struggles mightily against left-handed batters, and he has throughout his career. Way more home runs, way more fly balls to left-handed batters. It's been a theme, not just early this season, not just in 2022, but you can go look back pretty much throughout his entire career. There's two guys in the lineup tonight for Houston that I think make all the sense in the world. One of them is Yordan Alvarez, but as we've learned from Luch, you don't always make a lot of money betting on the favorite to hit a home run in a game. I mean, that's why you bet on Kerry Carpenter at plus 750. You bet on Marcus Semien and some of these other guys yesterday that you hit. Luch is like, they're not even people that you necessarily think right off the bat is like prodigious home run hitters. But Kyle Tucker, to me, a guy this season enters play tonight with a 41.9% fly ball rate against right-handed pitching. Last season was even better getting the ball in the air against righties, 45.8% fly ball rate. Tonight, again, gets Chris Bassett, who had a 427 FIP has a 427 FIP against left-handed batters for his career. It's a great matchup for him. And I think I've seen way too many people on Twitter on Yordan Alvarez. So to me, that says Yordan's probably getting 2 doubles in the gap tonight. And there's another lefty in the lineup that's probably leaving the yard. So I'm willing to roll the dice here for some fun money on Kyle Tucker plus 360.
I do have one interesting note to add there, Kamish, as we throw it over to Luch, which is just that Yordan Alvarez is actually being offered as a pretty decent plus EV spot on FanDuel right now. 5% over the number, plus 330 compared to plus 274 on Pinnacle, plus 273 on the market average, according to OddsJam. And the reason I find that interesting is they're running this promo today, right? Like they're not unaware of the fact that a lot of people are going to go to their sportsbook and bet home runs today. So I always find that FanDuel does a bit of a better job. Like if somebody struggles against lefties, they will have the lefties nerfed and give you better odds on the righties. So you're like, what do I do? In this case, I do find it very interesting that they're offering the best odds on Yordan Alvarez in a competitive market when they're offering a plus EV promo. Luch, with that framing, what do you got, brother?
I agree. It's the lefties, if anybody, against Bassett, but I think I'm just sitting this one out, and I want to gather some more data so I can either pick on Bassett in 5 days from now or leave him alone. I mean, for the past couple of weeks, Houston was struggling against right-handed pitching. Then they obliterated Kevin Gausman, which was just like pure insanity. Obviously, this isn't exactly the same Astros lineup without Altuve and Gurriel, and there are some serious strikeouts at the bottom half of this lineup. Myers, Maldonado, Pena, and the rookie Julks. whatever you pronounce it. I'm not quite sure. But either way, like Bassett had a ton of question marks in spring training. His velocity was down. He got absolutely destroyed in the early going, and his velocity was still down. But I will say his swinging strike stuff has slowly gone up each game. His velocity was up a tick last game, which was really good to see. So I don't know which Chris Bassett we're actually going to get. I don't know if anybody knows. So like, I think I just want to sit this one out and find some better prices in some different games. So I will say this though, if you think Chris Bassett's getting it together, and Lord, does Toronto need a starting pitcher to have a solid game? There are a ton of righties in this lineup. So, we know he has a super long leash. This guy has no problem throwing 100 pitches. So I don't know. I'm just sitting this one out. I like the lefties. I think Kyle Tucker would be the move if I had to pick one. On the other side, you have a fly ball pitcher for Houston. Not a lot of good prices, as you typically don't get good odds with Toronto power bats. I mean, Bo Bichette's kind of like 5-1, I think, in a couple of places here. I think Vlad has the best chance of actually going deep. Urquidy's not a guy that gets shelled a lot, but he'll give up a couple solo shots with that just massive fly ball rate. So it's just a game that, like, with all the pricing and all the question marks, I'm just kind of like chilling on and probably going to pass.
That makes a lot of sense. Just from a purely market perspective, I actually think that you nailed it with Bo Bichette. Just looking at how he's priced compared to the market, FanDuel's offering you the best number, which again, you want to approach with a little bit of a degree of caution. However, it just makes sense to the market. Plus 520 compared to a plus 405 market average. You're seeing a sharp book like Caesars all the way down to plus 210. Seems like a really weird market outlier as well. Very low for a home run prop. So did they get hammered on a bet there? Did they have some kind of information? Maybe the guy just ate asparagus this morning. He's feeling real good like Popeye or something. But I just found that very interesting from a market standpoint. But
well, especially Liam, that's a good point that you bring up too, because it's not like Bichette's a 45 home run type of guy. And you have Aaron Judge. We get on this show every week and we talk about Aaron Judge's nerf to plus 180, plus 190. The difference between Aaron Judge and Bo Bichette in terms of power production and getting the ball over the wall is pretty significant. So if you're telling us that Caesars has a line roughly in the ballpark of where Judge is at, I think that's always worth at least noting.
And I think another thing, that could be completely off here, but my take is, like, books love when people bet on home runs because they're hard to hit. They really are. This is just like an anomaly heater I'm on. I mean, I hit my fair share of them, but nothing like this. So FanDuel on its promo day is going to give you some decent odds because historically this season, you guys both know, you've been getting better prices on Caesars pretty much compared to any other book for home runs. You're looking today, it's like, oh, FanDuel, Kerry Carpenter's plus 750, but half that on Caesars. And then you mentioned the Bichette thing. You're right. He should be priced with his peers more like up to 3-1 or something like that.
Love it. And then the last game that we want to talk about in a structured way is Pittsburgh at Colorado here. So we could start with the weather report as we have, and I will bring up the totals information as we move. But the last thing I'll note on this game as we flip it over to the commish is just this game has actually seen a little bit of reverse movement in the total. Opened about 9.5, now sitting at 9. So not a ton of support there for the over, but still sitting at a decent total at 9. So still could see some runs scored in that game. Commish, what do you think about this game? Pittsburgh and Colorado, 8:40 is when we're looking at starting this game on the East Coast. A lot of information to break down.
Yeah, I mean, the weather report looks good. We get on here and we talk about Coors is usually not the best spot to attack with this FanDuel promo because the misconception is that because there's a lot of runs scored at Coors that it automatically means it's the best home run park. And as we've shown with ballpark factors the last few weeks, Coors is number one in runs scored usually on an annual basis, but the home runs are usually 5th or 6th. So not the best. Tonight, the wind's blowing out pretty substantially towards right field, which you can see here, roughly 18 miles an hour around first pitch, temperature around 70 degrees. So not hit or reverse conditions by any stretch of the imagination, but still you have a couple of pitchers on the mound that they're not going to give up a ton of long balls. Jose Urena, for as horrific as he is on the mound, he's not a guy who's going to give up 5 home runs every time he goes out there. He's giving up a lot of balls into the gap, a lot of balls through the hole, stuff like that. That being said, Jack Suwinski, I do think if you're targeting someone in this game, for me, it's Suwinski. Last night, hit his second home run of the season. It was such an impressive home run that it actually got its own news stories this morning. 461 feet to right field. Last year, Suwinski had the second highest fly ball rate of any Pittsburgh hitter who had at least 200 plate appearances against right-handed pitching. Early on this year, Sawinski has the highest fly ball rate of anyone on Pittsburgh's roster, and he ranks 10th in fly ball rate out of 246 hitters who have at least 30 plate appearances. So this is a guy who can get the ball in the air, and you can see that as a left-handed hitter, if you get the ball in the air tonight, you're probably going to get an extra 10, 15 feet just because of the way the wind is going. You're already in cores. You have the altitude working in your favor. Again, the big thing is just Jose Urena. He doesn't give up a lot of balls in the air. So Sawinski's got a little bit of an uphill mountain here, but I like where he's at. I like the price. I think this is a spot. If you are choosing to participate in the FanDuel promotion today, I think this makes sense. I think Luch always has. What's your principal, Luch? Like 4-1. You won't bet anything under 4-1. I think this is like right at the cusp there. That I think with the promo makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, unless it's Patrick Wisdom, then I have to run it back today. But it's typically right. And you made a good point. I mean, he has like a 50% ground ball rate. So it might be more of a game to look for total bases than home runs. Just, maybe just to, be a little more careful. And I mean, he had 8 home games at Coors last year and only gave up 6 homers, but his slash line was pretty bad. So it's not like he's given up an egregious amount of home runs. I mean, for a bad pitcher at Coors, like that's kind of like getting out alive, I guess. But I wouldn't expect like 3 or 4 home runs. I mean, they BABIP'd the hell out of Kyle Freeland last night. The Pirates did. And I think there was only 1 or 2 home runs on the Pittsburgh side and a messload of runs scored. So I feel like maybe you could see something similar as the result. Like last night, a lot of runs scored, a lot of balls in play, but maybe not a ton of home runs. But I think you nailed it with Sawinski. If there's going to be a guy, I'll back you in that corner there. And just before I forget, Scores and Odds, great site, right? I mean, we all put in a bunch of picks on there. I have a couple more home run calls on there. I saw you put some stuff in there today, Commish, as well. So glad to have you on board. And before we like totally switch gears, I want to ask you: were you on the Nick Lodolo train again today? Your boy's pitching every 5th day now.
I'm gonna find a way probably in the first 3 again, and we'll see. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Luch, if you guys need a product over here, the SAO product, you got Luch, who's off to just a blistering start. You can see the sub 500 record, but when you're hitting home runs at a rate like he is, it's adding to a lot of profit. I'm doing my best to keep pace. We added a cash with Boyd this afternoon with SAO, but yeah, plenty of picks there, and it's not just us. You got access to Cardi and Analytics Capper and Britt Devine and a bunch of other really sharp guys. So definitely worth checking out if you guys are looking for some expert information.
Love it. And I know that our guy Luch might be pressed for time here, so just wanted to say if there's any bonus bets, anything else that you want to get off your chest, please, my man, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, we covered a lot of ground. I think Bailey Falter's interesting and looking at in the second leg of that doubleheader. He's really struggled against right-handed bats. Again, weather's not fantastic and things like that, but you might be able to find some good total bases or maybe some home run looks with righty bats against Bailey Falter. It's good we got 9-inning doubleheaders back in the mix this season, right? So absolutely. I needed every out for that Kerry Carpenter walk-off earlier, which is kind of funny to think about. But I kind of am looking at White Sox right-handed power. And I did run Patrick Wisdom back, not to give away the farm, but I will pick on Ken Wojciechuk any chance I could get. He just cannot get righties out. He throws like 70% of fastballs to righties, which isn't, not a lot of longevity in that major league career unless you start developing some other pitches here. And I know he's not the worst pitcher on the planet, but who hits fastballs? Patrick Wisdom. Who hits lefties? Patrick Wisdom. Who's on a tear? Patrick Wisdom. So he could take my money again tonight, but hopefully we'll be taking some more from the books.
Luch is on a tear. Wisdom's on a tear. Waldechuk's not on a tear. That sounds like 3 things going in the same direction.
We'll see what happens, man. It's been a fun ride. I didn't expect it for my Monday, Tuesday to be so exciting, but it was a pleasure to join you guys. You guys are great at what you do, and hopefully I'll see you guys on another show soon.
Yeah, absolutely, Luch. Appreciate you making time to hop on and join us today.
Pleasure's all on this side, man. Great to meet you. Great doing a piece with you. You got a lot of great analysis. Thanks, man.
Hey, man, we'll circle back soon. Have a good one, guys. Good luck.
See you guys.
Cheers.
Well, Liam, before we get out of here, man, anything on your plate today? Anything with the UFC that you just want to give people a look ahead on?
Well, the first thing I want to do is circle back. I know that we had to get our guy Luch out of here. He's got some other responsibilities coming up at 4:00. However, I did want to say, I think that you hit the nail on the head with Sawinski. Why because he meets a lot of my criteria. Number one, you're seeing some respect from FanDuel. They're not giving you the very best odds. They're not going above market. They're just below market, right? At plus 390. There's plus 400s out there. Not really much better than that. So then you're looking at a plus 400 best available. FanDuel shaded that by 10 cents. They're saying, maybe you go play it somewhere else, 4-1, right? But then Pinnacle, the sharp books, MGM, they're all holding it, plus 350 and below. Right. So then real books that take big bets or whatever, right, that are scared and want to make sure they don't get exposed at a bad number, they're going lower. FanDuel's going lower than the best available, and it's all 4-1 and below. That's pretty tight market width as well. So just a lot of the market boxes being checked for me on that play. So I think it was just a very sharp look by you. I think that all the analytics from a matchup perspective makes sense, and I think the market also supports it.
Well, I love that. I love when I put in a play and then Liam tells me that it also makes sense on his end.
As far as the UFC goes, you guys can find me on YouTube at Liam Picks Fights, and I will be discussing later tonight the main event. One half of the main event is a lot less of a known commodity. Sergey Pavlovich has only had 6 fights in the UFC. All 6 have ended by knockout in round 1. He's 5-1 in those fights, so we haven't seen him in the octagon for a long amount of time. But I think that there's a lot to break down from his prior footage before he got to the UFC. So deep dive on Sergey Pavlovich. That's what you can look forward to later today.
Awesome. Well, Liam, I appreciate you taking point today and leading the discussion. Always good jumping on here, giving people some leans and some information with the FanDuel Dinger Tuesday promo. Again, guys, not great weather anywhere really across baseball today. We can run. I'm just going to run through a couple of spots before we get out of here. Maybe even some deceptive spots. But you can see the Guardians and the Tigers. They played this afternoon. Carpenter got one out. Oscar Gonzalez got one out. But frigid temperature is about 40 degrees for the nightcap in that one as well. Maybe someone gets it out to left field. It's going to be really tough to get that ball out to right field at night. Marlins are inside. The Reds, somewhat favorable hitting conditions. We got the wind blowing out towards left field, which we always talk about. Good for the over. Pretty good for home runs, but some strong pitching in that game as well. So maybe not the best spot from a FanDuel promo perspective. You go to Washington, same thing, about 60 degrees. Like, not a terrible spot, but not a great spot. Probably, like, we're not going to see 5 home runs in that game. I would be shocked if we did. Deceptive spot here with the Angels and the Yankees. Wind blowing out like crazy. You can see 13 miles an hour projected at first pitch here, but it's only about 50 degrees. So,
as I like to say, a beautiful day in New York.
Beautiful day in New York has different standards than other places around the country. But yeah, so get the ball up in the air. It's got a shot. It's not going to be knocked down by the wind, but it's also not very warm there. So just keep that in mind if you're attacking that game. Similar story in Boston tonight at Fenway. Wind blowing out towards right field, but it's only about 50 degrees. Probably not going to see a ridiculous amount of carry there either tonight. Phillies and White Sox, wind blowing in, cold. Same story that we see around the league. Texas and KC, we touched on. Wind blowing out to left, warm temperatures. This is a green spot here if you're looking at the FanDuel Dinger Tuesday promo.
And some sharp movement to the over, like we talked about as well.
Yep, good point, Liam. So even if you're not doing the promo, like you want to take an over in that game, Texas and KC, some good market indicators there. Arizona and St. Louis, we've talked about it in the past. When that wind is blown in from right field at Busch Stadium, the ball tends to die everywhere in the park. It blows it down. If you're hitting the ball to center, it blows it across the ballpark. If you're hitting it in that gap between left and center. So not a great spot there tonight. I don't think the pitching is going to yield a ton of home runs or hard contact either. Houston and Toronto inside. So we'll move on. Pittsburgh and Colorado. We mentioned the wind's blowing out to right, but not the best home run pitchers on the mound. Some guys that are probably going to give up some runs, but might not be a ton of opportunities via the home run in this spot. So just keep that in mind. Chicago and Oakland, wind's blowing out. Pitchers, Stroman's not going to give up a home run in this game. I mean, Stroman gets everybody hit the ball on the ground. It'd be really surprising to see him give up a home run tonight. The Cubs might have an opportunity against Waldichuk to get 1 or 2 out. But again, when you're looking at the promo, not the best opportunity. Oakland's not a home run park, even with the wind. Tough to get the ball out there. So just be mindful of that. And then we have some cold weather again in Atlanta and San Diego with wind that's sort of just meh. It's not gonna help you, not gonna hurt you too much. And then Seattle.
And Strider's on the mound, I think. So I don't think that San Diego is likely to get hot.
I don't know, man. Some people are higher on Strider than others, and I'm not one of the people that is in love with that guy the way a lot.
Well, he's been doing well to start the year. That's all I saw. I'm a more of a baseball casual, as you know, but I believe he started off with like 2 straight 9 strikeout performances.
Oh yeah, I mean he misses a ton of bats, but when you got a fastball slider, you're also going to give up some hard contact going the other way. But different video. We'll break him down when we have an opportunity to do so. But Mets and Dodgers as well. Wind's blowing out towards right field, but sub 60 degrees. Ball doesn't travel crazy there to right field either. So that's our quick rundown on the weather report. Anything else, Liam? 25 minutes ish.
Yeah, we're basically right on time. The last thing I'll leave you guys with here is we talked about how, Coors is a place where a lot of runs are scored. The line did move, I believe, from opening at 12.5 to 13.5, but then there has since been corresponding sharp move to the under. So, maybe that means it's going to, sportsbooks expect it to land 13, but I thought it was interesting that they moved the number and then all the sharp play has come back the opposite direction. So just could be a sign that maybe we're not looking at 10 home runs and a game that flies over the total, but might be a game that's a little bit closer to the margin. So something to look out for in that Colorado game that we discussed. Also, want to just say shout out to our lab teammate, Jay Jones, in the comments as well. Look at Coach Kamish. He's got the fit rocking. So Kamish, any last words that you've got, brother? I think we're good to sign off and get out of here.
No, man, it's cold as hell in Cleveland today. So not the best day to be Coach Kamish, but it's always good to be talking baseball, chopping it up with you, Liam. And yeah, man, appreciate everyone who tunes in. Even, you know what? Actually, not a good day to be chopping it up with Liam. He's a Yankees fan. He's got the Yankees gear on.
No, sir. Just a good day to be in New York, baby. Mets, Yankees, whoever it is that's the sharp side that day.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you joining. As always, appreciate Luch for joining. As we said, go check him out on Scores and Odds if you guys are interested. Come check Liam and I out, Jones and Prop in the Lab VIP as well. Man, Liam, we got to get Liam off the comment, but we got too much Yankees love going on here. But yeah, if you guys find the content valuable, like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Hit me in the DMs, the replies, get us over in the Discord if you have any questions about this content or anything related to baseball, NBA playoffs in full swing as well. Other than that, we'll get out of here. Go enjoy the day, touch some grass, all of that good stuff. All right. See you guys. Best of luck on your action.